Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed rescue.
Roger, nice to be in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
We are broadcasting all the way from the Deep South. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void, all the way from Forest Tower Studios. It is Thursday night, October the 18th, and the moon is waxing on into midnight. Beautiful night here in the South. We are seeing a beautiful, cool sky here. So our guest tonight on the broadcast, author Stephen Hawley Martin. And tonight we're going to be talking about evidence of life after death, evidence that you will never die. That is a very good subject. It's a subject close to my heart. As time speeds up for all of us, we wonder each and every day, if you really think about it, every second, every minute that goes by is closer to death. And if you don't think about it a lot, it's always in the back of your mind. What's going to happen? Even now, we're closer to death than just a moment ago. So, trying to figure out if we are still around after this body stops is something that we all think about. And that's what we're going to talk tonight with author Stephen Hawley Martin. Now, we are live on lightingthevoid.com, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker, iTunes Radio, Radio Guide FM, Radio Garden, and more by proxy via KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. There is a call to listen line if anything drops out on you. That number is 701-719-3971. And I think I want to say to you guys real quick that this month we've been doing a lot of stuff's been going on this month. So we've hooked up with some syndicates via XDS. We've gotten a lot of equipment. So when I say from the bottom of my heart, October of 2018 is a month where we really need your support. So if you can donate, please do. Now, if you have already, don't worry about it, and we really appreciate it. But if you can't, don't worry about it either. Just help and share, and maybe ask one of your rich buddies to donate. We know how it is here, because this is a big month for us, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But you could also support the show if you want to get something other than just donating. You can get a free audio book if you go to audibletrial.com/LTV radio. You can grab a t-shirt. You can use the Amazon portal. There's other ways that you can help support us. Follow, like, subscribe. Everything is Lighting the Void. I know some of you have been asking about the newsletter. I will get it out before the end of the month. I promise. It's just we've been so busy here. And so if you haven't gotten the newsletter, that's because I haven't sent it out yet. So no worries there. And if you want to sign up to that newsletter, all you got to do is just sign up via the website at lightingthevoid.com. Put your name and email in there, and you're good to go. And that's it. I'll try to entertain you once a month with a newsletter. If you want to hashtag something on Twitter, it's LTV Radio. Now, Stephen Hawley Martin is a professional editor, ghostwriter, and author, and the only 3-time winner of the Writer's Digest Book Award, having won first prize twice for fiction and once for nonfiction. He also has won a first prize for visionary fiction from independent publishers, and a first prize for nonfiction from USA Book News. He has written 17 books, which in total have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. For 2 years, between 2007 and 2009, now he hosted a successful weekly talk radio show, The Truth About Life, which averaged 30,000 listeners per episode. Having spent a successful career in advertising and marketing communications, he is currently editor and publisher of the Oakley Press. And you can visit the website. His website is shmartin.com. And Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to dig into this subject. I really appreciate you spending time with us.
Well, thanks so much, Joe, for having me. I'm looking forward to it, too.
Now, this, the thing that I was talking about earlier, like a lot of people say, they're not afraid to die. But I really think in the back of everybody's mind, they think about it. Everybody thinks about it. If you're human, you do worry about it sometimes.
Oh, you got to. I kind of take the point of view that Woody Allen had, and that was, I'm not afraid to die, and I just don't want to be there when it happens.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not afraid of dying. I mean, the pain part, I would like to avoid that, but the actual, I'm not afraid of dying in the sense that I know that my consciousness is going to continue on, and I believe I'll go to a good place. And we can get into all of that, but I have, in my book, Life After Death, Powerful Evidence You'll Never Die, the most powerful evidence in that book, I believe, comes from the University of Virginia School of Medicine. And they have been studying this subject for more than 50 years. They started back in 1960, I believe. And, we can talk about that, but they have a number of things they've determined that show that the brain does not create your consciousness. Your consciousness is, what the brain does, it's like a receiver, like a cell phone or a radio that receives your consciousness. Your consciousness exists somewhere else all the time. And what has happened, you've heard the old saying that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. I think that's absolutely true. We are spiritual beings, and our brain and our body are the vehicle that allows us to operate in this particular reality, this physical reality that we're in right now. But we're only here temporarily. So
I think the scary part is
I'm not afraid of dying.
I wish I could say that. I really do, because even when I say, I'm not afraid of death, it feels kind of true. But deep down, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, because I've been close to it before. I've had a panic attack, and anybody that's ever had a panic attack knows what that feels like. It feels like you're about to die, and you're full of fear.
Yeah.
And, fear is a part of the body, right? But, if we could just know, and based on what you're saying, we should know that you don't die. There's something on the other side, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that old soliloquy by, Shakespeare, To Be or Not to Be, he talks about, I guess he's deciding whether to commit suicide. He does the fear of something after death, that undiscovered country from which no traveler returns, puzzles the will. So in other words, he's not afraid. He obviously thinks his consciousness is going to continue, but he's afraid of what he might experience after death. There was a lady who wrote a review of one of my books, and she said she was a nurse and was often at present when people were dying and so forth. And there was this one lady who was just having a terrible time of it because she was so afraid of what she was going to experience. She felt she was going to go to hell. And it was just a horrible thing to watch. But, I think if you're a good person, that's not going to happen. One of the statistics that I can give you is that, there are thousands of cases of near-death experiences where people are clinically dead and revived, and they talk about what they experienced. And that's one of the things that the University of Virginia points to as far as people having accurate memories of things that were going on, if they were in an operation, what the doctors were talking about, what they were doing when they come back. And one of the things is that only something like 14% of the people who have those near-death experiences have a hell-like experience. So the other 86% have a good experience where they get to a place where they see relatives, people that have gone before them that they haven't seen in a long time. They have a big happy reunion. It's a great feeling of euphoria, and they'd like to stay. They're kind of disappointed, some of them, that they have to come back because they've been revived. So I think, unless you're a really bad person, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Well, let's talk about just a little bit of this evidence here, because it's, you spent a lot of time researching this before. It says here you spent 2 years gathering information about this. What is the biggest thing that makes you, or I guess the biggest evidence for you that tells us that there's something after this?
Well, I would say there are four things that the University of Virginia cites. And the first one we've already talked about, which is the near-death experience where, for example, I tell a true story in my book about Pam Reynolds. Pam Reynolds had had to have an operation. She had what do you call that? It was in her brain. They had to operate on her.
Aneurysm,
and they
maybe?
couldn't do it. Yeah, an aneurysm, right. It's like a ballooned artery that was going to burst. And they couldn't operate on it with her alive because the brain was in the way. She had all the way down in the core. So they drained the blood. They, took her operation. They drained the blood out of her body and performed that operation. And when she came back, of course, she had the typical near-death experience where she talked to her grandmother and an uncle who'd died and other things she talks about and how nice it was there. She really didn't want to come back. But when she first left her body, she described what was going on in the operating room accurately. And there were some unusual things, particularly kind of instruments that the doctor was using that she'd never seen before. What one of the nurses was talking about with having to find the artery in her leg to drain the blood and so forth. So here is someone who was absolutely clinically dead. The blood drained from her body, and yet she had memories, accurate memories that the doctors and nurses could verify that she, while she was out of her body, and she came back. So the near-death experiences and the accurate memories people have that obviously are formed when the brain isn't working indicate that the brain does not create consciousness. A second thing that the University of Virginia cites has to do with people on their deathbed who right before they die, when they've been in a coma or they're just kind of in vegetative state, will suddenly come back and be lucid for a period of time before they pass away.
Right. Okay.
And this indicates to them what they believe is going on here is that when the brain is dying, they, their consciousness can't come through. But when it finally does, it releases the consciousness, and they're able to speak. They talk. One example that was given was a man, 42 years old, who had a brain tumor, and for 3 weeks he was, just in a total vegetative state. And then a couple of hours before he died, he came to and was totally lucid, talked to his wife, said goodbye to her, and passed away. My grandmother did the same thing about 50 years ago when she died. She had been unconscious for weeks, and right before she died, she came to and talked before she passed away. Was totally lucid. So those are two things.
I can validate that too, actually. Go ahead. I'll tell you a story about what happened. I can validate that.
No, why don't you tell it, and then I'll tell the other.
Sure, yeah.
I'll tell my other two.
A friend of mine, his name's Junior, his grandmother had, I guess, not autism, but where they forget everything. I'm forgetting words tonight, too.
Dementia.
Yeah, and so, to the point where she was doing crazy things. Like, she would just show up in his room with a shotgun and really angry and forgot everything all the time. Well, one night when we went over there, she was like, and that she'd been this way for years, but she was so happy like she was before she had gotten it, and it wasn't even her. I couldn't explain it. And that night she passed away. And, I've never forgotten. Right. See, I don't remember stuff like this until people start talking about it. And the other thing is that another host that's on this network, Ronnie McMullen, he just had a guy crash a plane in his backyard just like less than a month ago. The pilot crashed one of his small plane in his backyard and burned to death. And what Ronnie was saying was when he went out there and talked to the guy was talking, but he shouldn't have been talking, right? Like he was pretty much dead, but he heard him talking. He was talking to him, So yeah, that's insane. You're right about that. Pretty cool.
Right, and there are a number of these examples that the University of Virginia cites. But another example is people who have very little brain tissue. There was one. An example would be people with hydrocephalus or whatever it's called. Their brains their head is kind of swollen and it's all liquid. 95% of their brain is incapacitated, and yet they'll have a normal IQ and, be just like anybody else when very little of their brain is actually working. There was one case where a young woman who had been accepted to, I think it was Smith College, which is a very prestigious and hard to get into women's college up in New England somewhere, was in an automobile accident and knocked unconscious. And when before they operated on her, they did an X-ray of her skull, and it looked like all that was in there was the brain stem. And when they opened her head up, that's all that was there. And this woman was a very bright woman who had gotten good grades in school and gotten good SAT scores and had been accepted to Smith, and yet there was almost no brain there.
That's wild.
I had a boss once, a guy who worked at an ad agency where I worked when I was young, who had been a pilot in the Air Force, and he was driving home from work, and felt bad and passed out. I was pulled the car off the road, but passed out. And they took him to the hospital and opened up. Something was wrong with his brain. He underwent an operation. One of his lobes, we have two lobes in our brain, was gone. He had apparently had some accident at some point in his life, knocked in the head or whatever, and it had atrophied. And yet I can vouch for the fact that he was totally normal until he had that passed out kind of thing. So consciousness with people whose brains shouldn't be working or not even there. Another, and the fourth example is a big one, and the one that really started this at the university with a man named Ian Stevenson, who was the head of a department there in the medical school, child psychologist and child psychiatrist. And it's memories that children have, many of them, of past lives, that when they check out the facts, they're accurate. And there are many, many, many cases of this.
Which would indicate reincarnation, basically, if you think about it.
Which indicates reincarnation. The University of Virginia has more than 2,500 cases that they have investigated since 1960 that checked out. And, some pretty spectacular ones. You may have heard of the one about, I think his name was John Leninger, and he was a child, I think he was born maybe in 2000, but had all these memories and nightmares about being in an airplane when it crashed and was burned. And they questioned. It went on and on. His parents didn't believe it for a long time. They were Southern Baptists, and they didn't believe in reincarnation because, as you know, that's a doctrine that the Christian church rejected about 1,500 years ago. And but as they questioned him, he remembered the name of the aircraft carrier that he flew off of, the Nakoma. He remembered the names of different people that he was associated with, friends on that aircraft carrier. All this stuff that was just totally, and he even took him to a reunion when he was about 6 or 7 years old of the people that had been on that ship, and he recognized them. He said, "Oh my gosh, they're so old," because that was 50 years later. And but that's just one of many, many cases. It's kind of spectacular because he did remember so much. He was able to tell his mother about they were looking at pictures of airplanes, and one of the airplanes had how they put those tanks under the wings, and his mom pointed to it. And, here's a 3-year-old, okay? His mom points to it and says, "Look, there's a bomb on."
Right, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, there's a bomb on that airplane. And he said, no, that's not a bomb, Mom. That's a drop tank. And what it is a extra gasoline tank that when they're going on a long mission back then, they would have that on the plane, and when it was empty, they just release it and let it drop. So then it was called a drop tank. So here's a 3-year-old that knows that. Really amazing stuff. So, yeah, reincarnation. Now, probably a lot of people are worried about that because of the Christian belief.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We
it
only
goes
live
against
once.
A lot of Western beliefs, but
yeah.
I've studied a few verses, and I think that in the Bible, Christ kind of hints about it. when he's talking. It was either Elijah or somebody, I forget, but he said, "This is John the Baptist, if you can accept it," something like that.
Yeah, he said that John the Baptist was Elijah who was to come, which is Elijah was supposed to come back, and he did as John the Baptist. There are other instances in the Bible that also point to that. For example, you might remember the story about, and it's told in a couple of the different Gospels, about Jesus coming upon the blind man, and his disciples say to Jesus, is this man blind because of something? The man who was blind from birth. This man was blind from birth. And the disciples say, was he something he did that caused it, or was something that his parents did? And of course, what they're talking about is karma. The idea that you would be punished in the next life for something you did in a previous life. And Jesus said, no, it wasn't either of those things. It was to show the work of God in his life or something like that. But he doesn't say, hey, no, it couldn't have been because he was born blind. Obviously he takes for granted that it could have been from a previous life that caused that. And I was talking to one fellow who was the executive secretary of the ARE, Association for Research and Enlightenment, which is Edgar Casey's foundation that he started back in the 1930s. And according to him, there are 11 instances like that indicate reincarnation was taken for granted by the early Christians in just the Mark Gospel alone. So what happened is that in one of the councils they had in the early church, wasn't even that early. I think it took place in Constantinople in 553, if I remember correctly, AD. So 500 years after the death of Christ, when they decided or voted, in apparently a very close margin, to eliminate reincarnation from the Christian canon. And some people think that's because the bishops that met there didn't want people to think they would get a second chance, you see, to make it to heaven. So
what got you writing this book, though? Seriously, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I'm just curious, before you wrote this book, were you curious about this? Did you have doubts? Is that why you took on this writing?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely, I had doubts. I was raised in a home that was, we went to church some, but it was I would say my parents were secular humanists. In other words, they were bought into the scientific materialist point of view, which is there's nothing beyond this world that if you can't measure it if you can't see it under a microscope or measure it with a yardstick, it doesn't exist. And that's the kind of home I grew up in. And so, when you think, when that's your point of view, then there is no afterlife. When you're sort of like a robot that has a computer-like brain that creates your consciousness, and when you die, it's like you pull the plug and that's it. You're gone. There's nothing, blackness or whatever. So that was kind of the point of view I had. And what happened is about, I'll show my age now, about 40 years ago, I came across a book written by David Moody called Life After Life. And I opened that book, and it was about near-death experiences. David Moody was a doctor who had witnessed a number of and talked to people who had had near-death experiences. So 40 years ago, 1978, not much had been said or about that. There wasn't much known about it or said about it. And I picked up that book, and I think I read it straight through in one setting. I was so gripped by it, the idea that I was wrong, that there is something, that our consciousness does continue.
That's one of those times when you find out that you're wrong, that you're kind of happy about it. Listen, we got to take our first break here, but we're going to be right back, guys. A little bit more from Mr. Martin here. Stephen Hawley Martin, the book is Life After Death, Powerful Evidence That You Will Never Die. And speaking of consciousness, it's kind of funny, though. I'm curious about animals now, because according to a latest study, your dog really does have the ability to understand the words that you're saying. But kind of like your boss, I guess, most of the time he just ignores you. But consciousness is a funny thing. But we'll be right back. We're going to talk about this subject a little bit more. Stick around after these messages.
To Lighting the Void Radio.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News for The Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. A Williams, Arizona rancher is baffled by cow mutilations. A cow and a bull were both killed overnight. An ear cut off, a section of hide was detached, the scrotum penis carefully removed, the vaginal cavity gone, and the blood had been drained. No discernible tracks were found near the carcasses, which were laying near an infrequently traveled road. Little blood was found on the ground, and the cow was wedged up into a tree as if trying to escape from something. You can read more details to this story at williamsnews.com. And scientists grow human eye parts to determine how we see in color. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University in Maryland created eyeball parts from stem cells in the hopes of better understanding the how and why we develop trichromatic vision, the ability to see red, blue, and green. The study was published in Science back on October 12th. You can read more of the details to this story at cnet.com. And so many people have had their DNA sequenced that they've put other people's privacy in jeopardy. Everyone's DNA sequence is unique, but for those who wish to maintain their genetic privacy, it may not be unique enough. A new study argues that more than half of Americans could be identified by name if all you had to start with was a sample of their DNA. It wouldn't be simple and it wouldn't be cheap, but the fact that it has become doable will force all of us to rethink the meaning of privacy in the DNA age, experts said. There is little time to waste. The researchers behind the new study say that once 3 million Americans have uploaded their genomes to public genealogy websites, nearly everyone in the U.S. would be identifiable by their DNA alone and just a few additional clues. This story was published at the LosAngelesTimes.com, and a man claims he saw a Bigfoot creature in upstate New York. Gary, who didn't provide a last name, said last Sunday that he was a child when he and his friends encountered the alleged biped. He's quoted as saying, "I was 7 years old. We were playing by a stream, and there were lots of trees. We used to go play in there. Suddenly," explains Gary, his friend Mike tapped him on the shoulder and asked him to look up. He says, "Don't say a word." Then I looked up and I see this guy there. I thought he was wearing overalls, but I looked down and I'm like, wait a second, that's not overalls. That's like weeping willow leaves draped over his shoulders, and they went all the way down to his knees. Then I looked at his legs and I saw hair. Gary described the being as being a big hairy ape with a red nose. According to the eyewitness, the animal was using branches as camouflage, and he says he was sure it was an ape. He was holding another creature in his hand, like a little hairy ape. The man says the creature had also noticed their presence and it was staring at them, but not in a menacing way, he explains. It just looked at me with a blank face. So I got up and we started walking towards the hill to get away from the area. There were 7 of us. When we reached the hill, we began screaming and freaked out. When I got home, I told my mother, but she got mad because I was late for dinner. Some researchers believe Bigfoot exhibits natural curiosity towards domesticated animals, loud noises like cars and chainsaws, and especially screaming children at play. This story was reported at cryptozoologynews.com. And time for this edition's Fun Fact. A buttload is actually a real measurement of weight in bourbon and whiskey. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt. Stick around for more Lighting the Void with your host, Joe Roop.
Alright everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your northern self and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you be the Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
This is Jason Lindgren from Crow 777 Radio, and you can hear us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night here on The Fringe FM.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shifthead.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
All right, remember now, if you want to call on the show, the number is 1-800-588-0335, 1-800-588-0335. That's toll-free from the United States or Canada. We are here with Stephen Hawley Martin, author, ghostwriter. We're talking about his book, Life After Death, powerful evidence that you will never die. Fascinating subject for me. It always has been anyways. I don't know. When I hear this stuff, I feel like, everything's going to be okay. It's all going to be fine. And I forget. That's the thing I think a lot of us do, Stephen, is we forget about the evidence. Like you and I will talk about it tonight, and later on I'll think about 9 other subjects, and when death comes up, I'll forget that, hey, there is a lot of good scientific evidence. I think the biggest thing that I am so impressed by is the fact that the brain could be just almost not there, like you're talking about, and it still functions, or it appears to function at 100%. That's wild,
Yeah, it is wild. I mean, it definitely shows that, I think his name is Dr. Grayson, the one who has done some of these studies at the University of Virginia and has studied all this stuff. And he says, this materialist science that we have still holds on, even though in quantum mechanics, modern physics shows that really there is nothing that's material. Everything is atoms and quarks and all that stuff are not material. It's vibrations. It's energy. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And so, that's where the atom bomb comes from and so forth. It's so, and everything is connected. That's one of the things that bottom line in quantum physics is there really is nothing that's separate and apart from anything else. Everything is connected. So when you think about it, this world we live in, this universe, is just like a giant thought. And I believe that underlying it all is consciousness, that consciousness is the ground of being. It's the primary thing. It's the primordial thing. It's what everything comes from. And we are consciousness at our core, and we come from that ground of being, and we return to it. But fortunately, we keep our sense of self the whole time. And the really weird thing is that sense of self that you have and I have is the primordial sense of self. I mean, that's what it is. We are all one. We're just different windows on it, on the one.
Makes you think like we're some kind of, like you were talking about, some kind of antenna. 360 area code, you're on the air with author Stephen Hawley Martin. Who are we speaking with?
Oh, this is Yvonne, Joe.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. Who is that again?
Yvonne.
Hey,
aloha.
Yvonne, how are you?
Hey, pretty good. I wanted to ask, because in scriptures, it says that in my Father's house there are many mansions. Mm-hmm. And so I was just wondering, does that mean then there is just not one place that a person goes to, as we say, in heaven or in the afterlife place?
That's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked it, because it opens up a whole area that I'm very interested in and have kind of studied. In my Father's house, well, there are a couple ways that's translated. One is there are many mansions. That's the King James version, the old way of speaking. In the modern translations, like the NIV translation, it would be, in my Father's house there are many rooms. And that's absolutely makes sense if you want to think about it, because if we're thinking of it as heaven, do you think that you and I would go to the same place as somebody from, I don't know, China or a bushman in Africa? Or we're going to go to a place where there are others like us who are on the same kind of wavelength we're on, and they're going to go to a place where there are people like them and on the wavelength. So there are many rooms. There are many different compartments, or whatever you want to, however you want to say it, where you're going to go where you feel comfortable.
That from you, though. I would be different from you in that perception. I don't think there's segregation up there in heaven. I think it's more based in regards to one's energy vibrations and consciousness.
Okay.
Because we all still are all of one consciousness. And so I don't think that, when I go up there, I'm going to be Filipino or whatever that I am now. I think you
asked the question, so what do you think it means?
For me, the different of the mentions, for me, the different mentions represents in terms of the level of consciousness development at the time of death.
Okay, so
I think that's quite
cool.
Possible. I think that we go to the level that, as you said, where our vibrations are, where we are in terms of our evolution. that's where we're going to go.
Now,
because when we go
there are different levels. You've heard the stories about, seven different layers
right,
of heaven and this earth, we're kind of right in the middle where we are now.
Well, we've also had people call in and talk about that have had witnessed, actually, have had experiences with their own soul families, per se. People that they've constantly reincarnated with, people that I've even had people come on this program and say they were from different star systems and stuff. So when you look at the universe, I mean, segregated not in a way of race, but I'm sure the universe is quite segregated. I mean, there's different clusters and star clusters and all kinds of different things, So I could say, I mean, it could be, I guess, reasonable to think that certain soul families go with other soul families or different places. And, I mean, the Mormons, don't they believe something about that everybody gets their own planet or something? I think I'm not real familiar with it, but,
I'm not too familiar, but I think that's right. Yeah.
But,
Joe, I'm sorry. I bring this up because I had an experience in where I had to bring my great-grandmother and my grandmother together because they weren't in the same place over there.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, so I did have that, that experience where, I had to go and help them to come together, so to speak.
What do you mean, like in the afterlife?
Yeah. It's part of the kind of work I do, Joe. I don't want to take up the time, but
sure. Well, you can tell me about it sometime, or send me an email. But I really appreciate your call, Yvonne. That was a good question. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I wonder about that too sometimes. I wonder about that verse, actually. I mean, how do you separate that verse? How do you get rooms from mansions? I would think mansions are that's pretty specific. That's like a big, nice house, I don't know how they translate that down to room.
Well, I don't know. I guess somebody who's a New Testament scholar and speaks Greek would be able to go to the word that was translated, but it is translated differently in the modern translations. There's a great book, by the way, called Many Mansions, which was written, I think about 30 years ago, and it draws on the work that was done by Edgar Cayce. Are you familiar with him?
Absolutely.
He was a psychic who would go into a trance, and people would ask him questions, and he'd answer. And Edgar Cayce was a strong Christian who didn't believe in reincarnation until he in these trances would talk about the reason something's happening in somebody's life is because something that happened in a previous life, kind of thing. And then he didn't remember what he said during these trances, but they were all transcribed by a secretary. And he would read this stuff over and think, oh my gosh. He finally came around to believing in it. But basically this book, Many Mansions, goes into, uses these readings to show how it all works. I mean, we do come into this reality. We basically come here to learn and to evolve. And that's what we are like flames of this fire. We are little pieces of this consciousness that underlies everything, and we're trying to get back to it. And the way we get back to it is by coming into this reality, learning from our mistakes, learning from the experiences we have, and hopefully evolving each time to a little bit higher level until ultimately we do what Jesus said, which is to love your neighbor as yourself, put God first and love your neighbor. And that's really what we're working toward, but most of us just haven't made it, But Edgar Casey said there definitely are people, and he had a number that he did readings for, who are here for the last time, and eventually they're going to go on to something higher. But most of us are kind of trapped on this wheel of life, and we keep coming back, and we keep making the same mistakes. It reminds me of the movie Groundhog Day. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, I love that movie.
He keeps coming back, having that same day over and over again until he finally gets it right. Instead of meeting all those things that come up on Groundhog Day with cynicism, he finally meets them with doing something about them in a good way, meeting them with love rather than with cynicism. And that's when he finally gets to go on to February 3rd. Well, that's kind of what the wheel we're on, apparently, according to Edgar Casey.
Yeah, I know that once people figured out, the thing about Edgar Casey that really got me is here's a man that had a gift, an incredible gift of healing. It could see into people's bodies and find out what's wrong with them, saw all kinds of things. And the human condition kind of took over, and his mate had to step in for him because people were just using him up left and right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they would use him to, what's the stock market going to do next week and things like that, yeah. And that's when, you're right, his wife would sit in on those sessions, make sure that kind of thing didn't happen. It's also interesting that Edgar Casey himself was never made a whole lot of money. I mean, I guess he lived okay. But he once tried to use his own talents, his own gift to strike oil, to find where there was a big deposit of oil and drill for it. And he went in with some other people. He found where the oil was, and they never could get to it. It always something went wrong, whether it was equipment or financing or whether he never was able to get the oil. And he finally came to the conclusion that he was not going to be able to use his gift to make money other than enough to live.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that about him. I did not know that he tried to make money with it. I mean, I don't blame him.
Yeah, he tried until he finally gave up. And the reason is, and this, I've interviewed a couple of people from when I did that radio show from the ARE, from the Association of Research and Enlightenment, and I've been down there and talked to them face to face. It's in Virginia Beach. It's only 100 miles from me. And one of the reasons that Edgar Casey had to go into a trance and could not remember what he said during the trances is that in his previous life, the most recent life before the one from 1777 to 1945, I think is when he lived, he was a riverboat gambler back in the early 19th century. He was a kind of rogue who used his psychic powers to win at cards, as a gambler. And he apparently led kind of a raunchy life. And so when he came back in this most recent one, he wasn't able to do that. That was blocked from him, which is very interesting. And then he used it only to help others. And that's, he gave, usually several readings every day. And it took a lot of energy for him, too. I mean, it wasn't that easy for him. And, he lived off the donations. He didn't have a set amount that he charged.
I know how he feels.
It was whatever the person was willing to give. So
that's the life I'm living. So I understand that it's not easy, it's not easy. Like I totally live off donations. The advertisements that we get pay is for the station and that's it. So if it wasn't for the audience, and this is what I'm talking about, man, like soul families, you see what I mean? Like if it wasn't for this audience, none of this would be here. That's 100% fact, you know? And I think that over time through our lives, and just this is my experience, and you can help me on this, that we tend to come in contact with these people. Sometimes it's not even when we're kids or teenagers, but we start finding who these people are in our life, you know?
Well, and I think we do we do have a soul group. Each of us has a group of souls that we're part of that help each other, and both on the other side and on this side. And when we incarnate, often the people around us, whether it's our brothers and sisters or mothers and fathers or aunts and uncles or teachers or whatever, are members of that soul group. And that I've been out to the what is it called, the College of Metaphysics in Missouri a few times, and they do readings like Edgar Cayce did, and I've had some readings done, and there are members of my family, particularly my children, who, you know, this is not the only life we've been together. And in a lot of times it'll switch around where in one life you were the parent and the other one was the child, and the next one it could be vice versa. So it's really kind of interesting. And a lot of times you come together with people because you have issues that you have to work out with them that need to be worked out. It's like the Groundhog Day thing where, you know, there was some bond between you, whether it was good or bad, that brings you back together. And until you get that resolved, it's going to keep going.
Yeah, I've got some people in my life that I can tell. I'm thinking we're trying to work something out here. But you know what's interesting here I find about you is, you know, you wrote the book Life After Death, Powerful Evidence You'll Never Die. But you also wrote other books, Life After Death, you know, book 2, Heaven, Hell, and You. You wrote a book about gnosis. Yeah. You wrote a book about reincarnation. You wrote a book about a title that's called Actual Magic, How to Unleash the Power of Your Mind. So I know that, you know, hearing you talk at first at prejudgment, I'm thinking, well, this guy's 100% Christian, right? And when I'm looking at this, it's like, well, you're kind of like a Gnostic. You're searching for truth based on the esoteric teachings of Christianity. Now, I could be wrong, but that's what I see here.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I am a Gnostic. I believe in Christ's teachings, and it really is very, very basic. And I already said it earlier, which is put God first and love your neighbors as yourself, you know. And if you do that, you're doing what he said. Everything else is kind of window dressing, you know. And it's incredible to me that so many Christians don't do that. You know, they have all these other rules and things, but it doesn't relate to the basic fundamental great commandment. They call it the great commandment, and yet they kind of ignore it. There are people, they're neighbors that they don't like because they're, I don't know,
they're scared
gay
of
or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
they're
crazy.
scared of them.
I mean,
right. That's what I find about it too. And I'm not trying to bash fundamental Christians, but a lot of them they're afraid of everything, you know. Yeah. And you know, you could tell when you go to their house because they got 9 security systems, and you know, they look around before they open the door. But that's not just, I don't know if that's just Christians. I'm just playing, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, we've got just, I mean, it's even hypocritical for me to say that.
There are Christians who are more evolved, and I think that, you know, there's different, like in anything, there's different levels.
Yeah.
And the higher level is that you realize that we're all connected, we're all one, and, you know, therefore, you know, we're all God's children. And we ought to all love each other because we're all brothers and sisters, even the bad guys and even the people over in Saudi Arabia and so on. I mean, We're all come from the same place. And once we finally realize that, and are able to get along, we'll create heaven on earth. I mean, but we're a long way from that now. We got a long way to go.
Well, so Life After Death, Powerful Evidence You Will Die, it was the first part of a series. So the second part, so this isn't your latest book then, is it?
No, it's not. Probably, well, the actual magic is kind of interesting because that really is a Gnostic text. It's telling you that you create your own reality with your beliefs. And
I believe that's 100% true. I believe that.
Yeah, if you believe that you're going to be have problems in life and things aren't going to work out, guess what? You're going to have problems in life and things aren't going to work out. The book goes through the steps that I have kind of figured out that you need to do to make things work for you and happen. And it's really all based on belief. It all change your beliefs and your reality, your life will change.
I believe that too.
That's really what it comes down to.
Well, we're talking with author Stephen Hawley Martin. We've got to take our second break here, guys. If you want to call in, it's 1-800-588-0335. You can text in the show at 501-777-5631. We are live on The Fringe FM. Don't forget, after the show is The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. We'll be right back with more from Stephen Hawley Martin after these messages.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Greetings, galactic community. This is Suzanne Ross, host of Sci-Spy Radio, every Wednesday evening from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. Join me for this brand new show featuring a revolutionary new genre, Sci-Spy, merging science and spirituality to give us answers to the greatest mysteries of creation. Together, scientific discovery and spiritual revelation reveal the truth about who we are, where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. Tune in to Sci-Spy Radio every Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific and discover the truth for yourself at thefringe.fm.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
From birth, we have been conditioned to conform to what is normal, conditioned to adhere to authority, and conditioned to repeat what has been told to us as truth. I'm Ryan Gable, and here at The Secret Teachings Radio, I've interviewed hundreds of great guests and done extensive unique research into subjects that span from the paranormal and the occult to health, philosophy, and history. I personally have no affiliations or agenda, except to use objective critical thinking in my analysis of every subject discussed, to empower myself with information and hopefully allow you to do the same. If you want to join me, tune into the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, airing live Monday through Friday from midnight to 3 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time on the Fringe FM. For more information, you can visit our website at www.thesecretteachings.info or email me at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of The Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to The Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Welcome back to Lighting the Void. Don't forget that the Halloween special is coming up. Alex Exum is doing. We're also going to have specials going on all day. So we're going to have, horror stories, old time radio, all kinds of cool stuff. And not to mention that, I'll just keep that a surprise. But if you're not doing anything on Halloween, you definitely want to hang out with us at the Fringe FM. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff. And in the spirit of Halloween, if you haven't heard about this, it's pretty crazy, but a wacky but true evil deflecting mirror story. An elderly woman in China has hung hundreds of mirrors from her 5th floor balcony to drive away evil spirits, and her neighbors are freaking out, so apparently it's working, right? So that's what everybody's saying. So I don't know, but that kind of stuff, when you're talking about that, Stephen, like, let's just say superstition, for example, because earlier you were mentioning about belief. What if I believe? Mm-hmm. Let's say I was like this lady and I hung mirrors all over my house and I thought that it drove away bad things and negative things and I really believed it. Would that become my reality?
Well, I would think so. I mean, it's going to be her reality. Evil things, that's an interesting topic there because, there are some people who are not very nice. What is that guy's name? Bundy or somebody who went around murdering people. And, what happens when they die?
That's a good question.
Well, I think they go where other people like them are. And those people can cause problems for the living. I think that spirit possession, for example, can happen. I've read several books about it, and I've talked with 2 different psychiatrists who have encountered it for real. And So that's something I don't think you have to be worried about it I think people who actually do get possessed, either it's because they're in some weakened state where they're very sick or whatever, and their guard is down and they let it in, or more likely they actually make some sort of a pact with the evil side of things. And I think that that can and does happen. And when people get possessed, I mean, have you ever seen pictures of it? I mean, it's movies. It's real and it's crazy. It's as I said, I've interviewed two different psychiatrists who have both had to deal with it. One of them specializes in it. She's in West Virginia. In Wheeling, West Virginia. And
that's
so anyway,
freaky, man. People can't making pacts. Like, I know it's real. I've actually read some grimoires where people make pacts with. I just don't understand it. Okay, like, I don't understand why you would make a pact with anything dark when you could use angels. I mean, if you believe in angels, why wouldn't you use them? Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it must be because they don't feel worthy. That's the only thing I can figure. But it's a grim place to go. There's a book that I read, probably 20 years ago, called People of the Lie, written by Scott Peck, and he also wrote The Road Less Traveled, which is a terrific book. But the People of the Lie, Scott Peck is dead now, but he was a psychiatrist, and he had patients who had made pacts, and that's what he talked about. And
what happened?
They cannot tell the truth. It is once they are in that state, all they do is lie. And even if they'd like to tell the truth, apparently they're unable to. And the ones who are possessed they can have several different entities in them. Apparently when some people pass away, when they die, they don't look up, they don't see the light. And that's one thing everybody should be aware of. You need to look for that and go to it, because what happens is you kind of are right around in this reality, but nobody can see you. And what happens, some of these people who are dead will latch on to someone else. It might be a relative. And that's usually ends up in something that's only partial possession. But say, for example, you had an uncle who died and he had some problems with his liver, and he decides to attach himself to you. Well, you're going to start having problems with your liver. I mean, things like that. So it's not really that they're possessed and can't make decisions or whatever themselves, that they're totally taken over. It's sort of like they're just kind of got these sort of issues that come from somebody who's passed away, who's kind of latched onto them. Kind of weird stuff. There's books on that subject.
I'm with you. I totally understand it, actually. I told a story about that a long time ago, dream journaling, how attachments get onto people. Some people call them elementals. Some people call them demons, but do you believe, just a shot in the dark here, do you believe in hell?
I think that there's a place. I think that we go, as the lady we were talking to earlier said, we go to the place that we belong based on where we are, our evolution. And I think someone who is evil, like the Bundy and others, go to a place where there are others like them. but it's where they feel comfortable because that's who they are. So it's not like they're going to a place where they're burning and being tortured. They're going to a place where they can associate with others who are like them. And from that place, they may be trying to do bad things to people on this side of the veil. But I think that if you reject all that, and you can even use Jesus or whatever if you want to, because that works apparently, they're not going to bother you. Like you said, it's got to do with beliefs. And there are people who believe in magic who, if a magician tells them they're going to die, will die.
Mm-hmm.
And back and back before the age of reason, before the age of enlightenment, that kind of stuff was going on all over the place, where people really believed that witches could do things. Well, they could do them.
Yeah.
If you don't believe the witch can do it, she can't do it to you.
I totally believe. Listen, it's not like a two-sided coin, right? I totally believe in curses and things like that, but I also believe in protection. So, and when I say protection, I mean, like you say, what is it that you believe, right? I mean, if you believe, see, that's the problem with the esoteric and Gnosticism and magic and things of that nature. It's like people that are super polar minded, I think, once they become, oh, I believe in magic, it's real, it's definitely real. Oh no, this witch put a curse on me. Well, now I'm cursed because magic is real. That's just a flaw fundamentally. You know, you got to say, well, why are you allowing that to happen? You can counter it, or you can just not believe in it, period. It's funny how people that don't believe in it at all, as far as I know, never get affected by it, you know?
That's right. That's the point I'm making, is that if you believe it, it'll happen. If you don't believe it, it won't happen. One of my books is called A Witch in the Family, and it's about my 7 times great grandmother, Susanna North Martin, who was one of the women who was accused of witchcraft in Salem back in 1692 and was hanged as a witch. And so I studied that whole thing. I read all the depositions that were taken. All that stuff exists. The depositions that were taken, all the trial transcripts. I read all the contemporary writings about it, what Cotton Mather had to say. And my conclusion from it was those people believed in witchcraft, and because they believed in it, it worked. Now, of the 19 people who were executed, there were 19 executed. I think 18 of them were hanged and one was crushed to death. A couple of them were men. There were another 5 who died in prison. But of all the people that were the primary suspects and were convicted, I would say there were maybe 2 of them that were witches. The others were falsely, this just from my research, the others were falsely accused, including my grandmother. But the ones that were witches were doing that stuff. And they were, one of them had effigy jowls, poking pins in them, stuff like that. And so it was a time when people didn't really know how the world works, how they didn't know science. I mean, they didn't know that germs cause disease. They thought it was a curse.
Right. Everything was a curse. And so
by believing everything was either because you'd been a good person or a bad person, or because a witch had cursed you or something like that. And, the whole cause and effect thing was over their heads. So back then, magic, witchcraft, so forth worked. It doesn't work today, at least among people who don't believe in it.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I'm actually, when it comes to magic, I'm a 100% believer in it, actually. So it's cool. But I understand the fundamental behind it, though, right? So,
well, the fundamental in reading my book, Actual Magic, because the fundamental is we're all working magic all the time.
Right. Yes.
And we don't realize it. We're working magic because of what we believe, our beliefs. If we believe things are going to go well, they're very likely to go well. If we don't think they're going to go well, they're not going to go well.
And it's a core belief too, right? Like I could say out loud to you that everything's going to be okay and I'm going to live an abundant life and all that stuff. But really, until it changes deep down inside of me and my subconscious, nothing's going to change.
That's right. That's the key. That's what gnosis is. The title of that book, Gnosis, is knowledge that you really believe deep down, that at a gut level, it at a gut level. That's what gnosis is. And when you know things at a gut level, they become true for you and, for others. But just saying it is not the same thing. You can try to convince yourself, but if you're not convinced at that feeling gut level, it's not going to work.
Right.
If you can reach the state of gnosis, you can work whatever it is you've got gnosis about. It's going to work. It's magic. I mean, you take somebody. Then you don't have to be a good person. You don't have to be a bad person. You just got to have that gnosis. And somebody like Donald Trump, for example, he believes, and because he believes, it works for him. And it's incredible. It just the people that don't like him go crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
My dad hates him. He flips out every time. He does. He hates him. Right. So, Donald Trump
but
will
look
go
at
on a
the
rant.
economy, he believes it's going to work.
He'd be like, it's the best ever. We got the best this and best that, and everything's the best. And my dad you could see he just turns red and he flips out. He's like, this guy's insane. He's crazy. And I'm like, yep, he's insane and crazy, but he's doing better than you and I are. That's for sure.
He is. And it just pisses people off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And, it makes me wonder, like, life after death, if we, and I really wonder about this, our beliefs, do they affect what happens to us after we die, right? Like, if I'm unsure versus somebody that's sure, are we going to have two different experiences when we pass because of our beliefs?
I think there may be something to that. I don't know exactly how it would work out, but I've got to believe that if you think you're going to hell, like that lady that I spoke about earlier in your show, when the nurse wrote a review of one of my books and said that she was at the bedside of this woman who thought she was going to go to hell as this woman was dying, and it was a horrible thing. Well, I think that lady probably did, go to that kind of place. Now, whether she stayed there, I hope not, but her beliefs created that.
Yeah. Well, Robert Monroe writes about that too, and I'm sure it's like, there's Joe talking about Robert Monroe, but he wrote the book Journeys Out of the Body, and he actually would have out-of-body experiences and run into people. And even William Buellman talks about this, that everybody's belief structures determine this stuff. And it's like, that's a scary thought. So that's why another reason that I want to be sure, because if I'm sure, I can say that I'm not afraid, but at the core level, at my subconscious, I want to know. And if I do, then my passing might be something awesome. It might be a great thing. But geez, Stephen, I can't imagine what it would be like right before you're going to die, worrying if you're going to go to, or even thinking you're going to go to hell. That's probably what pure terror feels like.
Yeah, from what the description that this lady gave in that review, that was what it was like. This woman was sweating and, just writhing, trying to resist it, but it was coming on her, and they had to put ice on her body to keep her from just burning up. She thought she was going into the fire.
She was getting hot, so like she was on fire?
Yeah.
My
Apparently
God.
so. Yeah, the whole Robert Monroe thing is very interesting. I know a little bit about that because some of my friends have been up to the Monroe Institute and gone through their courses and told me about it. And it's fascinating. They have a whole group of people that whenever there's a disaster, like the World Trade Center or something like that, they will do their out-of-body thing and go there to help those souls find the way to the light.
Right.
And one of the stories that someone told me was that they often come upon stuck souls that don't know where to go once they've passed on. Maybe they were atheists or just didn't believe in an afterlife, and they're just stuck. And so they'll show them the light, they'll kind of lead them to it or point them toward it. There are other cases of people who don't know that they've died, where, for example, there was one case where this man had been shipwrecked. It was in the Irish Sea, the sea between the UK and Ireland. And he was clinging to part of the wreckage. And this was probably back in the 1990s sometime. He had been there doing that in the afterlife since his shipwreck in 1836. Now, time is different over there. There is no time on the other side. This three-dimensional reality we're in, one of the things about it, and one of the reasons we're here, actually, is time, because time does not exist on the other side of the veil. And so he didn't realize he'd been there for over 100 years. But he didn't know he was dead, so he was still clinging, he thought, to this piece of wreckage. And when they got to him, they, said, hey, you're dead. Up there's the light. Go to it.
I think I heard that before, where he was still in the water and he could feel how cold it was and stuff like that. Yeah,
I mean, he was.
That's
and
crazy.
It's been, forever. Well, the one we talked about earlier, the James Leninger, who was the pilot in World War II, he didn't reincarnate until 2000. Most of the cases that the university has studied and documented, there's very short time between when the person passed on and when they reincarnated, and that's probably one of the reasons they remember it. And many of them, a large percentage of them, were unnatural type deaths. Where murder, car accident, things like that. So that's why the person comes back apparently quicker, because they didn't have a full life. I guess they want to get back to it. But it can be a long time between, apparently.
Now, I think out of all the people that you talk to, the one, I guess I could say the one I'm curious about the most would be quantum physicists. Did you get to speak with some actual scientists about this, like quantum physicists, before you wrote this book?
Yes, I have talked to, last name is Strapp, S-T-A-P-P, Stapp, who's a quantum physicist and wrote a book, several of them, but one called the mindful universe. And my discussion with him had to do with this idea that that consciousness is the ground of being. And he would not come out and say that he believed that, but he said it was a theory that is definitely being pursued by a lot of these quantum physicists. And the evidence for it that I spoke with him about has to do with the double slit experiment. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
It's when you shine a light through a slit that is not wider than the wavelength of light. If it's one slit, it'll form a circle on the screen. If it's two slits, it'll form a wave pattern because the waves of light overlap in some places and other places they don't. So it makes dark light, dark light, dark light. When you shoot photons, which is 1 unit of light, see, light, that's one of the quirks of quantum physics. Light is both a wave and a particle, and particles, both at the same time.
Doesn't make sense, right?
Makes no sense. When you shoot the photons through those slits, when there's two, and it ought to make the wave-like pattern, light, dark, light, dark. When you shoot one at a time, and you don't record where they're going, they just make a scatter pattern.
All right. So the whole experiment basically shows that reality in itself doesn't really look like reality until it's observed. It has to be observed for something to happen. It has to be observed.
And so when it's observed, it makes the pattern. When it's not observed, it isn't. So why is that? Well, what it says to me is that it's because the mind of the guy observing, the scientist, says it ought to have a wave pattern. And so I'm going to look and see. And when he looks and sees and he measures, it has a wave pattern.
Right.
When he doesn't, and he doesn't know, it doesn't. Obviously a connection between that guy's mind and how those photons behave. Doesn't that say that
right.
the mind is everywhere?
For sure. And I think another person that you should talk to about that, if you get the chance, is Thomas Campbell. Right now, as we speak, he's conducting experiments for more evidence like that. He had a Kickstarter to do more experiments like that, and it was pretty successful. And he was like one of the leading scientists who actually developed HemiSync, at the Monroe Institute. Mm-hmm. And he's been on the show a couple times. So, yeah, I'm very familiar with that. The thing about, though, that I guess we can discuss after this break is the doubt about life after death. To me, even though we have all this evidence that consciousness works in mysterious ways and it's kind of obvious, is that we still just don't know, right? We don't know, like, when everything shuts off, does that other state shut off? Does the experiment go away? Does it go dark, right? And I guess we can go down this road a little bit further, but yeah, we do got to take a break. I am curious about some of the other people that you talk to. It says here you talk to parapsychologists, medical doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, quantum physicists, and researchers. Interesting stuff. We'll be right back, guys, after this break. Don't go anywhere. More Lighting the Void coming up after these messages.
Listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Ahoy there, Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're here to take you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic on our show,
Shift Happens, live every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific, that's 9 to 11 Central, right here on The Fringe FM.
And remember, don't feed the Archons, feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
Occult Arcana is a balanced and objective guide to those subjects considered a part of the nature of light and darkness. Addressed in this text is a compilation of material that will provide new perspectives and awaken latent abilities that we all possess. The content herein shall provide magical sustenance for adept and novice alike, and will help strengthen the cornerstone of mystic understanding and alchemical transmutation. If you are interested in this modern grimoire, you can find detailed information and ways to order by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. Although esoteric and occult studies remain vast, they are rooted within a universal philosophy that is difficult, if not impossible by finite terms, to explain in words. Language places restriction and erects barriers to understandings. By this it is to be understood that there are some things man should consider far too sacred to profane with definition. For these concepts and the manner by which we live our lives, we shall take a note from the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Quote, "Silence is better than unmeaning words." End quote. To get your autographed copy of Occult Arcana today, simply visit www.thesecretteachings.info or email The Secret Teachings at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to GetTheTea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. The discussion topic tonight is life after death. We're here with Stephen Hawley Martin, the author of Life After Death, Powerful Evidence You Will Never Die. The website is shmartin.com. Hope I got that right. I always butcher websites. shmartin.com. I did get that right.
That's right. And you can go to that and click on the little tab that says books, and it'll show most of the books I've written. There's a couple of them that you might find interesting, like Actual Magic and Gnosis and The Invisible Force.
Yeah, you got some pretty interesting topics here. It looks like you're going down the same path, if not already been there, that we'd already been. We've talked about a lot of this stuff so much. It's just evidence of life after death, I think, is why I'm so stuck on that subject. Is, be honest with you, I've got a subconscious fear about it. Despite all of the evidence, scientific or not, there's still some work I have to do on knowing that there's something or somewhere we go after we pass.
You know, I had this kind of, I don't know what you would call it, an epiphany. So I was really down about something and feeling bad. I don't know, it hit bottom, and I had this sudden feeling, this kind of aha awakening feeling where I realized that all, you know, the cliche, but all is one, that I'm part of this much larger, humongous thing, and that it is eternal, and that I came from it, and I'll go back to it, and even more, it was like I knew for just a brief minute, maybe not even a minute, 30 seconds, what the whole thing was all about. And when I came out of it, I couldn't, you know, remember it or put my finger on it, but I knew that I knew for a few seconds why we're here, what it's all about. And after that, I guess maybe that, along with all the studying I've done, has kind of made me not worry about it anymore. I know it's going to be okay. I know I'm going to go to a good place, and I'll probably come back again because I still got a lot of work to do. My soul is definitely not perfected yet.
Well, I like it here. You know, I've seen a lot of people talk about, you know, I can't wait to leave this earth and yada yada yada, and I'm like, I like it. Life is great. I mean, it's not all, you know, peaches and roses. I mean, there's a lot of bad things out there. Life will beat you up for sure, but the good things, I think it's worth it. And I'm pretty sure, and see, I know this, that I'd love to come back here and do it again. Absolutely love it.
Well, you know, I'm right now, in fact, before you called, I was working on a new book, which I have tentatively entitled Your Path to Bliss. David, no, what's his name? Joseph Campbell.
Uh-huh.
Joseph Campbell was a professor at Sarah Lawrence University, and really had studied all the mythologies of the world and comparative religions and so forth. And he always advised his students to follow your bliss, to do what your heart tells you to do, and I believe that's true. I believe that we come into this reality usually with a purpose, a reason that we came. And if we can figure out what that is and connect with it and start doing it, then we're going to have a good life. What's not a good life is when you go into a job that you don't like and you're doing it day after day, and it wears you out, and you go to bed, you know, drained, and you get up in the morning and you do it again. Now it looks like to me, you, Joe, are doing something that you love, that you like, and so you're following your bliss, and it makes perfect sense to me that you're happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this out in the open. I've never struggled this much in my entire life, but you know what? I feel less stressed than I did when I made good money, and I hated what I was doing. I swear I'm being as honest as I can be about that. I feel less stressed about it.
Well, that's the same for me. Before I started writing books, I was an advertising executive, and I made a lot of money, well into the six figures. And
that is good.
I just got burned out on it. I was like I was on a racetrack, and I was going around 100 miles an hour, and I was going around and around in circles, always back to where I'd been before and starting over again. And finally, my company got bought, and I got a little money from that, and I decided I was going to stop and write books. And when I'm sitting down writing a book, I am in the zone. I mean, 8 hours can pass, and it'll seem like one.
Right.
And to me, that's when you're following your bliss, when you're doing something that you don't even realize time's passing. It just, hours seem like minutes.
Yeah, that's so true. And, we've got listeners that are starting to do things now, and I'm so happy to see it. Listeners that are creating YouTube channels, they're starting podcasts, trying to express themselves. And I think we're all here to do something. I mean, surely maybe somebody came here to be, I don't know, a garbage man or whatever, or maybe that was just your job, but you're really here to help somebody else out, and you just don't know why you're here. But like you, I worked in the car business, and I sold cars, I sold campers, I sold Airstreams, Class A buses, even tried a little real estate, worked in customer service, and I felt like I was dying on the inside, man. And if I felt like that, I would think to myself, there's got to be other people out there that feel this way. I can't be the only one feeling this way, And I was right. I've met some of these people, and I mean, I know that kind of helps me, I guess, realize there's something more to life or something after this, because I believe in the soul a little bit. I just don't really know what it is yet, Stephen, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I believe that we each have a dharma. Have you ever heard that word, dharma?
Yeah, dharma,
It
right.
means, it's your purpose. It's what you can do better than anybody else. I mean, and you something very special that you can use to help others, to be of service to others. And once you can figure out what that is, and I think the way you figure it out, at least what I'm saying in this book I'm writing, is you figure that out by asking yourself what it is that you've done in your life when you, whatever activity it was, that when you finished it, a lot more time had passed than it felt like. I mean, you were in the zone. If you can figure out what that is, then that is pointing toward your dharma, because that's why you're here. You came here to use that to be of service to others, because, it goes back to all is one. We're all one. We're all one big family, and we each have something to contribute, and your dharma is what you have to contribute.
You're so right about that.
So
I've got a book I'm actually reading right. That's a synchronicity right there, man. I've got a book I'm reading about dharma right now. So, yeah, I mean, again, we could go take this back to religion. I think Christ, Buddha, all these people, I think they knew something. Like either they were all connected to the same mystery, or they just kind of knew at a soul level why they were here to spread this message, so people would wake up and realize that, maybe you're not here to check out toilet paper and fill grocery bags the rest of your life. Maybe you're supposed to be doing something. And I think if you just ask, you'll find out what that is. I mean, look at you. You wrote a ton of books and won quite a few awards. You've won some awards for it. It's definitely more fulfilling than, I would say, it's got to be more fulfilling than advertising, I would think.
Well, yeah, I mean, advertising can be fun. It can be creative. You're picking up new slogans and stuff, but a lot of times you're selling soap, or you're selling chemicals that you put on grass to kill it, or whatever. I mean, it's just
bland stuff. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I wanted to get an advertisement once, and actually responded to a job on Craigslist, and they make it sound so big, right? You're going to be our advertising rep for this nationally #1 company of this brand that's #1 or whatever, and you get there, and they want you to stand outside and with a table and show this thing, and I'm like, what is this? I thought I was going to work for some big ad agency or something,
Yeah,
I get it.
That's right.
Well, your book about this book that we're talking about tonight, which is Life After Death, Powerful Evidence. Evidence is a big word because there's a lot of skeptics out there that just, when I say skeptics, I mean people that are just straight up, I guess you could call them atheists or whatever. They just don't believe in nothing. When you die, you're worm food and that's it. Do you really think that those people's minds can be changed if given?
I'm not sure they
evidence?
can. I mean, I've had people that, give me a 1 star because they pick up this book and say, I don't believe any of this stuff. But the evidence is there. I mean, when the University of Virginia School of Medicine has a whole department, they call it the Division of Perceptual Studies, that is focused on this question. And they've been doing it for 50 years, and they have come up with 2,500 cases of reincarnation that were checked out. And they have studied all these people that had near-death experiences who remembered stuff while they were, their body was dead, that was going on and could relate it back. And they have all these people who had these comebacks right before they died, where they became lucid after they'd been in a coma for weeks. And, that's evidence. And there's other stuff in there, too. I have a whole chapter on where psychics have been tested in double-blind experiments. This lady who got a degree, PhD in pharmacology, and her whole thing is you want to study something with double-blind experiments so that there's no influence that can get through that causes anything other than what the results you're looking for, whether it's real or not real, whether it's true or not true. And she has studied all these psychics, and, they are able to relate information from dead people that nobody else could have known. That sort of thing. I've got a chapter on that in there. And I had one person who wrote a review and said, if you want evidence, this isn't the book to read. The only thing in there that makes any sense is the double-blind experiment thing. Well, don't you think that all those reincarnation things, it's evidence? It may not be proof. He mistakenly used the word evidence when the word he meant was proof. The only proof is the double-blind experiment. There's plenty of evidence. And the preponderance of evidence is that your brain does not create your consciousness, and that when you pass over, your consciousness continues, your sense of self continues. And, and I don't think there'll ever be proof, but there are plenty of people who've died and come back and say it's real.
Well, this was a pretty extensive research project for you, right? I mean, a lot of people are, I'm reading some of the reviews here. Some people are saying that this is actually the one book to read about it. So, there's always the naysayer, right? You can't help it, but,
well, I call them pseudo skeptics because they're just, they're a pain in the butt. They won't believe something that's put right in front of them. They just are bound and determined. And I think it's because they don't want to continue on. They'd like to die and that be it. They maybe done something that they feel bad about. They think they're going to go to hell if there is one, or whatever. It's got to be something like that. because really, read the book. The evidence is there.
Yeah, and the book, based on, and I'll just ask you this, based on everything you've written, it's your belief that consciousness is a completely separate thing from our physical brain process, is something that's maybe our brains are just like antennas that receive the message or something, like it's totally separate.
Yeah, the brain is like a receiver, like a cell phone or a computer that's connected into Wi-Fi, and it is all those little things, your spinal cord and your brain stem and all that allows you to use that consciousness to operate your body. So the brain body is a vehicle to bring your consciousness into this reality. We were talking about Thomas Campbell. He's got a whole theory about how that works and how it came about. And his theory is that consciousness is the ground of being, that primordial consciousness wanted to know more and improve more, and so it made these little separate units. That's what we are, and eventually got to a point where they had evolved as far as they could in the spirit world, and so the physical world needed to be created so that there could be experiences in this realm that we're in, so that we can continue to evolve. And that's what we're here for. We're here to evolve. We're here to learn. We're here to become perfected. Maybe we will each become our own little universe or whatever eventually. I don't know what the end goal is, but I do believe that that's why we're here.
That's something I think about a lot, actually, every single day. What's the end goal, right? What's the, do you ever wonder, like, if, okay, and this is just a shot in the dark here, but do you ever wonder if being God is kind of boring? Like, say, for instance, I mean, you're everything, alpha, omega, consciousness, everything. You know everything. So there's no experience. There's nothing to relate to. Wouldn't that be terrible?
Well, you can't. This consciousness, this God, can't step outside itself. That's what you're saying,
right?
It cannot step outside and look at itself and consider itself, because it is all. It's there's no boundary. It can't step out, that it can step outside. So it almost had to create these separate entities that are part of it, but think they're not part of it, in order for it to know itself and consider itself. And that's what we are. We have free will. We have objective consciousness. We can step outside. And the ground of being consciousness is subjective. It can't step outside. And that's one of the reasons that it was created. You're probably right. God was bored. He wanted to know himself, so he created us to be his friends. I mean, that's even in the Bible.
Yeah.
That the reason God created man was to have a companion.
Yes, it's something I stew about quite a bit, but I know we'll never know the answer until we get there. But it's cool. I'm so glad that you did this research project, that you wrote this book, Life After Death, Powerful Evidence You'll Never Die. Stephen Hawley Martin. The website is shmartin.com. Do you have any other social media links you want to give out or anything like that?
I think the website is the main thing. I have a personal Facebook page, but I don't have one for my writing. So yeah, go to my website. It's got some videos on there that I've done. It's got some blogs. It shows all the books I've written. I think the videos will be of interest to people. I did a number on this book that are there. So shmartin.com.
Thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again sometime.
I'd love to. Love to. Thank you, Joe.
No problem. It was a real pleasure. All right, guys. So that was Stephen Hawley Martin. Check it out. shmartin.com. Go check out the book. We got to take a short break here, but when we come back, I got a little treat for you. An actual out-of-body experience, and you're going to go on the ride with it. It's not me, but it's a clip, and you're going to love this. Be sure you check out the website, shmartin.com. We'll be right back, guys.
Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm. Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies in a capsule.
I was diagnosed with colitis 2 years ago, and this has completely changed my tummy issues. It's an honest-to-God true statement. It literally has saved my tummy issues. Completely changed it. I was hospitalized for 5 days. You know, knock on wood and all of that, and thank you for Fiber and Spice. It's an amazing staple in my life.
For a limited time, use discount code TALK to receive a 50% discount on your first preferred whole health system and have it shipped to you free. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Again, use discount code TALK.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shifthead.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier. All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Root. Don't forget, after the program, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable will be on. Fascinating discussion with author Stephen Hawley Martin about life after death evidence. You will never die. Pretty cool discussion, pretty cool fella. Now, what I want to do in this segment is, I know we talk about the out-of-body experience quite a bit, and it's a lot of speculation and gander and back and forth, but what is it really like when you go out of body? What happens? Do you see things? Do you talk to people? Are there sensations? Well, I'm going to play this clip, and you and I are just going to kick back and listen. Now, this is quite a treat, actually, from the Monroe Institute, and it's something that, if you're listening, I would probably just hang out for a little bit. It's actually, we're going to cut through the middle part. We're not going to take the break. And this clip comes directly from the website. It's a free download you can get from the website of experiencers as they talk about the types of things that they run into, and they reveal their experiences as they go out of body. And these are the types of things that used to attract me. Now, I'm going to play this clip and a little teaser for next week, too. Justin from the UK, you know, the guy that we played his promo. Well, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of DMT or dimethyltryptamine, but they kind of went on an experiment with that as well. And we're going to take a ride with them, too, as they go along this journey. But that's for next week. But for now, we're going to take a ride out of the body. with Robert Monroe. Now, this clip comes from a few years back, and I debated on whether to play the Thomas Campbell one where he was there or this one. And I'm thinking it's this one because this one's going to talk about entities that are in the astral realm. All right, so here we go.
This is Robert Monroe speaking. The following is made up of material taken directly from the voice tracks of Explorer sessions held here at our research facility. We offer them without our evaluation or comment, so that you can learn from them as we did, and form your own interpretation or analysis of what took place. The Explorer is lying in total darkness on a waterbed in our experimental isolation booth number 2. The booth itself is well shielded from RF radiation and is temperature controlled and also totally soundproof. The only signal our Explorer can receive is the audio pattern through a set of stereo headphones. We record out of the booth her oral responses and her body voltages. Code name for this Explorer is ROMC. At the point of this experimental session, she had gone through some 32 previous sessions in the lab. She has gone now on her own accord up to focused 10 and is deep in 10 and moving into 12 as we pick it up.
I feel like almost a coolness coming around me. I feel relaxed. It seems that two people were taking me by the hand and just helping me, and give me security and someone with me, and sort of just talking to me, and going to just take me up to a certain level that's at a darker level, but put a blindfold on and said that till I'll work up to just a certain level. When I get up, it's going to be a lot lighter, brighter, and I had a blindfold on, but I was going to work in this little lower level for a while until I got used to it. So it's like I was going to bounce around a little bit under this particular level, and just sort of like floating or jumping up and down on a nice springy waterbed. Very, very comfortable.
Do you feel that you can communicate with these people?
Yes, they seem very gentle, very, they know how they're handling me. You know, that's why they're helping me. Both of them are taking my hand to help me out of the body, and they're very, they seem very warm, and I feel good about them.
That's great. Now, then you go and ask these people, what is their relationship either to you or to me?
Okay. I've got the impression that they've said that they're of the same consciousness or soul group with me, and I've been working with them on an unconscious level in the dream state, and I will be working with them more now on a conscious level. Okay. That's just exactly what you're doing is right thing, helping me to be unafraid and to take it slowly.
Ask them then to if they have any special message for you or for
me. The answer that after a few sessions, they would like to take me to completely to another sort of another level, actually more out of my body, and that they would like to be able to try to talk to this vehicle. The impression that right now that names would stand in the way, that they will always be here with me, and that a name would just put a block in the communication right at this point.
Ask them what else at this point, this moment, would be a good procedure to follow at this time. What other practice would they see would be best for you at this moment now?
Okay. They would like for me to work on some deep breathing exercises, and they wanted to do some more work on just helping me to get in and out of my body, and just till it feels more comfortable. Sort of the working on the physical part. But they'd like me to do some deep breathing exercises. I get the impression that there will be, these sessions are very, very helpful and very important for the whole, the physiological breakthrough, that I will be a much deeper level than I have ever been because of the way we're doing it and the relaxation and the whole setup. So everything is okay.
It takes a great deal of practice to learn to speak in these various altered states, and that's why you notice the slurring voice, the almost lip-heavy voice. Here is a sample of ROMC in her normal voice.
I could hear it, but it's a little light, I think.
Now, this was taken from the following session 1 week later.
Getting more light. It's more light, more all over my body. I think the light's coming from the other disc, which is up over me. It's like I'm between two energy discs. Okay. I just got the reaction back. We are a source of light and energy.
Question asked was,
which your body needs right now.
Question asked was, who are they?
Do you
to feel any results from the energy?
I'm actually beginning to feel like at first I was just sort of fell a little out of it, but I'm starting to feel a little more consciously, just a little more energized.
Very good. Why don't you just relax for a moment and then floating energy, and then report.
Okay. It seems that the other disc came down closer to me, and there was a lot of warmth coming out of both of them. Instead of just light, there was heat that was being used on me. And then all of a sudden, they started using some color, like from the top of my head, and shoot it right straight through my body, just like a straight tube. They were shooting purple, and just trying to get some of the dark areas of my body, the lower part of my body where I had the pain, just shooting out some of the darkness, the dark splotches. They just kept shooting. It was just like a tube coming down, shooting in purple. And then it would start changing, and a little bit it would go into blue, send some blue, and then every once in a while it would just send some fast flash of red, but then it would go back into purple. And it was just like sending from the top of my head right down through my body. And then I was started to spin, sort of in a purple light. Just the disc would spin around. And I find it makes me feel good.
Is it still taking place?
I was just sort of spinning around in the purple light, sort of relaxed, like. I could still feel the purple light around me.
Then report when you have any change.
Okay. It's like four people, four just presences came on, one on each foot and one on my hands, and they sort of lifted my etheric body just up above my physical body. They just sort of lifted me out, and I was just sort of hanging up over my physical body. And they were working, they had like a purple energy bar. They were working on my energy body, my etheric body, and just re-energizing it. But it's interesting, it's like they took, then my physical body was lying there without me in it. They just took it and balled it up like a rubber ball and just sort of bouncing it around. And well, I guess it's a way of elasticizing me, relaxing me. Sort of balled it up in their hand and just bounced it around a little bit, and then sort of pulled it back in place and laid it back down under me.
Very good.
I'm still suspended up over. I haven't gotten back in it, but it's probably a way of saying I'm going to have to be a little more. It's sort of comical, like a little more relaxed and like a rubber ball when I get back in that body. Just sort of, they're just telling me to go back in myself. They're not going to help me back in. Just got back in that flexible body now.
How do you feel?
Oh, actually, I feel good. I feel a lot more energized, and they're telling me I've got to keep that image in my mind to see my body more like just a rubber ball. don't let it get tense. Just let it just flop around and be much more relaxed. They're trying to teach me that I got to not get tense. That's why my body has gotten a lot of nerves and everything have just gotten all tightened up from activities and everything. And I'm supposed to keep visualizing my body as just a real relaxed, just a rubberized body. It's an image they want me to keep seeing, which is good.
Very good.
That it's going to help me. I've got to learn to relax this body just in every day so that I could work better in this state.
Are you learning how to do this?
Well, I can see the image of what to do. Each time I go into this state, I get the feeling that it's going to be easier and better for me between times.
Ask and see if there's any other activity that we can perform at this moment.
Still feel that while I'm going to go up in that balloon, I have to leave my energy bar back down with my body. And what I'm supposed to do is put the energy bar right down my spine. And when I take off in a light balloon, I will turn it on. And this will keep protection on my physical body, and I feel then that they're saying then at that point when they will be able to talk through me and work through me, and I will feel completely comfortable that I have this, that I'm in control, that I've left my energy bar, which I have been working with so much, and it's a part of me, that I leave that there in my body to keep the protection. And also these 4 helpers will be standing on 4 sides of my body, but I'm going to be out exploring other things, and they'll be able to talk and through my vocal cords.
Ask if they will tell us when they feel you are ready to do this.
I have a very, very strong feeling like someone is working in my body, working in my aura, and it said it will be when I am more out of the way, because I do stand in the way of any information. And that they will tell us, because it's after the balloon has floated out just into the next dimension, and it's more when I've been able to get more out of the way. But they would be able to, they will try, they said they'll have to experiment and just try to send through some thoughts, but that they won't be the pure thoughts as long as I interfere, but they're going to work with me. They said the main reason I interfere is that I have always thought that maybe it's me, and as I get more confident that that it is a dimension beyond myself working through me, I will release more and even be able to stand aside and listen. But this is a part of the training that they're putting me through now, is to take away first the fear, which they were working with last week and also this week, and also any doubt. And once I get far enough away from the earth, fear and doubt and my own insecurities, then it will be on a more solid basis. The information will be a little more pure. But that we just have to experiment, that's what it's all about. Not be afraid to experiment.
How do you feel now?
Well, it's good. It's good for me to, I can see this, and it's good for me to be able to see how it's going to work. Because it's in that level where I feel secure and I don't feel that fear. I feel a warmth, like a warmth of a being, just all the presences, so to speak, are very loving and very understanding, and it makes me feel good. All the presences, so to speak, are very loving and very understanding, and it makes me feel good.
Very good. And now we will have to close down. So thank them for their help. Thank them for your deep appreciation for it. End session. Debrief reaction.
Wow, feel relaxed, that's good. Cool and yeah, I can now. It seems, well, it was helpful, I think. I'm going to practice some of these things. It was interesting. You never know what's going to happen. No, this is what they were working with last week in getting me to do. The exact same type of thing. But I just did it. I didn't explain it. I didn't. Yeah. It was interesting. I'm going to work on it. Maybe. Well, yeah, see what happens. Yeah.
And now we pick up the third session and the peak point in it, the thing we've been building up to.
Just like I was watching happen and experiencing at the same time. It's like the 4 helpers just helped to lift. As this energy body was just came to my physical body, it's like the 4 helpers helped to lift my energy body out. And I just felt real light and really, really good. And got the sense then that this energy form that was then sort of implanted or just, I don't know the word to use, over within my body then was energizing my body, and it was just light and well protected. And I just felt good being out and felt very light. And then I could sense that the energy, the being I can call, a person was just talking about how they could like to experiment with trying to use my body sort of as a transmitting set between dimensions, so to speak, that I will just be able to step out. And I think they talked a little bit about that before, but I just saw how it would happen. I'll be able to step out and feel very safe and confident with these helpers and light and happy, and still be able to observe, if I would like, what's going on with the energy being. It's just like my body became like a transmitting set, and I got the feeling I could stay and listen, or I could sometimes I could do some exploration with these friends, these guys. They're more like sort of just very warm, friendly helpers.
They want to perform any other experiment now?
Okay. Feeling it, maybe you'd just like to experiment a little bit with talking, maybe through my vocal cords, but I'm still not out far enough that I might get out of the way, but they're going to just begin. They say this is the only way it's going to work. It'll be with practice and experimentation, and that as I learn to be more relaxed and just let it flow and go along and not let my mind stop it. The more they practice, we'll be able to it'll be able to flow more rapidly. So I just want to experiment just for just a short time with trying to come through with some thoughts to my vocal cords and my mental faculty, so to speak. So we'll just see what I'll just see what happens here.
Right, I will be here.
Okay.
Time lapse 3:23. Time lapse 3:23.
The things I am speaking who always are vocal cords, and I would like to speak to this young lady as she observes what is taking place. The physical body is seeming to heat up very rapidly. Sometimes it will be in a cool stage, but other times it will be in a heated state. And the molecules of the energy body, which is working through her physical body, is working at a more rapid rate, and therefore, right at this time, there is a feeling of heat surrounding this body. But I am going to show this young lady how I will work with the energies of her physical body and to protect and to keep it in its highest pure form while I work through. I am now going to change the level within this body from the heated stage to the cool stage. The balloon of energy which she has built around her can be rapidly changed for various purposes. And I want her to be aware of how I will work with these energy levels. And now I am going to change the levels to a stage of coolness which she will experience. I want this young lady to experience the various energy sensations so that she will understand and know how I will work and how we will work together. We will cool the molecules that surround this body and fill this body.
Real-time lapse.
This is being experienced at this time. This young lady will understand what is happening when we first come into her aura. There will be the feeling of warmth, and as she gets more relaxed and is able to begin to float above her physical body, she will experience the coolness and the feeling of relaxation, complete relaxation, the feeling of complete calm, complete peace, and complete security. These will be the typical experiences from level 1 of the heat stage to the second level of the cooling off, where she will feel light and airy and relaxed. And at this point, we'll be able to either observe what is taking place, or there will be times that she will choose to go out to explore. And this will be decided as the times arise. we will work on these levels first, as we have done with the breathing and building the energy balloon around this body. And then she will experience the heated stage. And then there will be the light stage and the coolness that will come over her, and she will know then that she is gently going out of the body, but will always be in complete control. If she so chooses, she is always there to observe, but to speak at any time, or can always even choose to step into other dimensions. And there will be those who will help her into these other dimensions. And while this is taking place, we will work with trying to bring through information through these vocal cords. It is a privilege to be working with a soul of your magnitude and experience. You have been a guide to many souls who need to be released to go into the greater knowledge areas, as you have done yourself. There are many ways to go into these knowledge areas, and this is a special experiment of stepping into knowledge dimensions. And this could never be done were it not for you, with the knowledge that you bring, and with the great light and confidence that you surround this whole project that you work on. I am working at this time on a dimension within the consciousness of this particular being, but as the dimension of this consciousness is opened, I will work fully and more freely on a more light level of consciousness. I have working with the others who will come in as we reach different dimensions and levels. At this time, I am able to tap into this particular level of the consciousness of this dear being who is interested in allowing herself to be used. But I can work on many levels of consciousness. And there are others who come with the knowledge from other levels. We will not say higher or lower. They are light dimensions. As we break through into the various levels, it is easier to bring through the knowledge. I am working now on the level where this entity is presently, but we will work together through various levels. There are others who are working with her. I speak in terms of we, because each time that I come, we come as a group. there are the others who are the assistants and will always be there to bring the energy levels up and to work. And we say that you are doing exactly what is necessary to help the situation to be in that perfected state whereby the energies can be released into other levels of consciousness. And now we will step out and allow her to step back in fully and to her own body. It is a privilege. Thank you, dear friends.
End of session. End of session. Debrief.
I feel very relaxed. Well, I've been observing everything. It's very interesting. It's like I was right, I'm just standing right here in the same, just sort of right around with the four people that were very friendly, warm presences. And it's like I was here observing and just learning and listening. I felt very good.
Wow, that's pretty intense. So you have to realize that those audios were recorded directly from the Monroe Institute. And you can go, there's a ton of other audios there at the monroeinstitute.org. And it's kind of hard to find, but there's a ton of free audios there. And even earlier, that Stephen was talking about where they were helping a person that was shipwrecked that didn't realize that he was dead yet. That audio is there. So when he talked about it, I remember specifically which audio he was talking about. Now, a couple of things I want to say real quick about that. Sorry about the hissing noise, but I don't know what they used to record with back in those days. That was a long time ago at the Monroe Institute. They could have been using 8-track recorders for all I know. So, but it's one thing to talk, like I said, to talk about this stuff, to stipulate about it, but it's a whole nother thing to listen to someone's experience. And so, for example, if you are interested in something like that and you want to hear more, there is several of these that you can download. An out-of-body experience, communications through the explorer's vocal cords from other entities. Basically, that's what we heard. A physicist explorer discusses the human relationship with higher consciousness, and a very familiar voice, actually, that you guys are familiar with, that I'll just tease you with here, okay? But we won't play it. But Thomas, anytime you go to the Monroe Institute and you see the TC, big T, big C, or the TC physicist, that's Thomas Campbell. That's the guy that's, he wrote My Big Toe. He's been on here a few times, a NASA physicist. Here's just a quick clip, because I know we got to wrap this up, but this is the other one I was going to play.
This is Robert Monroe with another tape report from our Explorer files. And TC is the reporter in this case, with excerpts from several sessions. TC is the explorer who is unable to communicate while in the out-of-body state. Therefore, he returns periodically to his physical body so he can speak. Here is a series of such reports.
On the way back to resume communications, I noticed an effect that had happened to me before that I had neglected to note, and that is a accelerating feeling backwards. Backwards being like to the back of, to the back of the head, kind of. Maybe the way I'm lying now would be to the north. Hard to really put a direction on it. Just general, the word backwards seems to fit. And an acceleration, seemed to be moving very, very fast, even experiencing like a G-force during the acceleration. That same phenomena occurred just before the judge courtroom scene disappeared and the intelligences that were behind that seemed to emerge. Further communications indicated only very vaguely what it was that they had in mind. They seemed to have been given almost the job to work with me, and I tried to pinpoint what work with meant, and they really wouldn't be very specific, but it's just work with in general.
So there's a little bit of a teaser there, right? So that's Thomas Campbell. He's been on the show a couple times. Now, if you guys want to check that out again, that's the Monroe Institute. Actually, you know what? I'll give it out over the air. So it's the monroeinstitute.org/free-audio-downloads. And I think all you got to do is sign up with Twitter or something like that. But it's these things go on for hours and hours, and there's a lot of skeptics out there. And what I would say to them is some of the best scientists that we know have been to the Monroe Institute and have done these experiments over and over again. This was, back in the day. You could tell it doesn't even sound like Thomas now. So I'm sure that was, I don't know how many years ago. I don't know why they refer to him as TC instead of Thomas. Maybe it's because of his job or something, but this is the kind of stuff that I'm really into and that I know you're really into. And that's why I wanted to talk about life after death, because it seems like we can do these things while we're alive. It seems like there are entities out there that want to help us. Are they good or bad? It doesn't seem like they're very harmful in this case. As a matter of fact, the lady before talked about that there were specifically four entities in the room that helped her relax, helped her leave her body, helped her work with her energy so that they could come through and talk. It's a little bit different than channeling. Now, she sat there in the room and observed the whole thing, right? And other things that grabbed me. They were talking about heating or cooling up the molecules around the body. Now, all of us that have had, paranormal experiences, we've felt those chills where the room gets cold or you've run in a hot spot or something. Maybe there's entities around there. I don't know. But the experiment on lighting the void is going to continue. Like I said, number 1, try to get out of body. Number 2, try to travel with one of you out of the body. Number 3, talk to an ET. All 3 things I'm going to try. Number 1, I've already done a little bit, and I'll relay the message back to you guys. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Blair Witch with Pat Fitzhugh. We've got some really good guests coming next week, and the Halloween special's coming up as well. Please, if you guys can, this is like a super pivotal moment for Lighting the Void and the Fringe FM. If you can donate at all, it would be fantastic. If you can't, believe me, I understand. I'm just glad you hang out with us every night. but we do got to get out of here. And I guess, oh yeah, I'm going to tease you too. Friday nights I'll be on live sooner. I can't tell you the name of the show or who's associated with it, but I'll be on Fridays as well pretty soon. But the show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be syndicated without written permission. And intro music was by Chronox, Guitar Man by Bundy. Other music was by Space Station and Kevin MacLeod. And check out the newsletter. Make sure you sign up to that. I'll be releasing it soon. We'll see you guys next week. Good night.